Africa Market Insight. We're back talking about always Africa economic revolution. Listen, I was watching a YouTube documentary, I believe, Africa in America 100 years ago, Time to Invest. Yeah, I just watched that. This was a YouTube video, was produced by Earn Your Leisure, incredible powerhouse kind of media platform led by two African American entrepreneur, amazing. Um, I think by two gentlemen, these guys and their team, what they do, they're really basically reshaping how we talk about business, wealth, and culture, across the United States. So they do a lot of like mini documentary series on Instagram and so on about financial literacy and so on. But they have this mini documentary series that talk about um, kind of global traveling through Africa. They have gone to Rwanda, Benin, Ghana, I believe they're currently in Guinea, and then basically meeting entrepreneur, innovators, you know what I'm saying, local leaders in those countries. And right now, as we speak, they're in Guinea, so they've been kind of understanding, the investment opportunities, doing the real market research, because I think that you really got to travel to Africa. It's a big continent, it's 54 countries, which means 54 markets. And there's difference between touring Africa and then investing, but it's good to kind of do some due diligence. And they have the economic power, the influence to meet the big player, because for them, it's about, yo, what's it going to take Black American community and the global diaspora to invest, in Africa. So it's good to really follow them on social media. They're incredible. The episode was is Africa is America 100 years. Yeah, and they're really breaking down what's happening right now in Guinea um, in terms of understanding who's investing. And how can we be part of the Africa economic revolution? That's exactly the whole thing. Yeah, I think go watch it. I put the YouTube link. I think there's a lot of lessons about really ownership, timing, and they had this great interview I think with this Guinea entrepreneur from Guinea, who back and forth from Guinea to the U.S. Really understanding how the future of global investment, man, might just run through Africa. And I think for me personally, as somebody who's do a lot of US Africa market advising, diaspora stuff, when I'm in spaces where we talk about Black wealth in the US, for me, in my presentation, I always want to add, what about that global connection through Africa lens? Because the continent of Africa is huge, young, creative, resource rich, the data is well documented and full of IDs. But of course, Africa is definitely often misunderstood, in the African American community, Afro descendant community, kind of, overall. So my thing is whether you Khalees, which is Nas' ex-wife, moving to Kenya, I believe, and earn your leisure, touring Ghana and Benin, all this country, it's powerful, man. If you're just curious, right? I think it's for you, it's for us. It doesn't have to take money first. Let's talk about mindset and strategy because to be honest, this is not about kumbaya, man. We ain't trying to hold hands, forcing unity and all that. It's about really building real bridges through business, investment, and partnership on both sides, from African American, from African community, from African diaspora. No one is forcing unity on no one. I think I'm personally speaking to people once in because from both sides, a lot of great work, great stories happening because I think folks understand the future of Africa, regardless of all the challenges. It's amazing because by 2050, Africa will have the world largest youth population. We have a lot of mega cities. I'm talking about Lagos, Nairobi, Kinshasa, where I'm from, the Democratic Republic of Congo. We got Dakar, just exploding in terms of sizing and opportunity. Some of the sector, mobile money, fintech is huge, taking over agriculture, logistic, transport. These are a lot of sectors across the mega city. And especially for me, where I'm from, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Africa's second largest country, we hold the mineral, I mean, that the world needs, man, for electrical vehicle, for iPhone, cell phone. We have all those minerals, right? renewable energy. So that's just the opportunity. And of course, there's challenges. Learn how to turn challenge into opportunity. And people ask me, what's the biggest challenge? I said, listen, it's leaderships, man. Leadership strategy. I know there's a lot, but I feel like, African leaders can negotiate better, whatever the case is. But it's good to focus on the sector to invest, to pay attention. Like I mentioned, health, tech, creative industry. It's a lot. That's why I wrote a workbook, you know, on how to enter the African markets. For me, the guide was, I think I have it here. Yeah, that's the book. For me, the guide was really selling the vision to really African American, African diaspora community. Let's visualize first. Let's understand that culture is everything, because you can't win without trust, build partnership and relationship across Africa because Africans, do want strategic highlight. I say highlight allies, right? And now charity. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of spot opportunity from agriculture, as I mentioned, to app. And it's about really understanding you got to do due diligence across Africa. You got to avoid mistake, avoid pitfalls. There'll be a lot of mistake because it's about learning from the wins. There's a lot of successful stories. There's also a lot of failure. But at the end of the day, I mean, with the book that I wrote, I put the link on Amazon. It's about really first have a plan where you visualize, strategize, and then act. Many of us don't have the economic power and influence of these guys that travel across Africa, do market research, do documentary. It's everything. Yo, and remember, there's a perception versus reality because you're learning a lot. Good or bad experience, man, it just doesn't define the whole entire African continent. There are brilliant African founders looking for partners now. You know what I'm saying? And Africa is not perfect. You know what I mean? Neither is the US. And like I said, traveling is one thing, investing is another. But I think it's good to be informed. It's good to be educated. And for me in this conversation, like I tell folks, two type of people in this sort of conversation from both sides, whether from African American or from African community. You have group one, those who fuel stereotype and argument. People are always going to be there on both sides. Second, you have those who are already bridging. Doesn't have to be perfect, but they're doing the work. They're doing with purpose. So many talents. So you got to ask yourself at the end of the day, what mindset am I bringing? Are you bringing these type of conversation? And why this matter for Black wealth is because the racial wealth gap in the U.S. is massive. Yes, there's a lot of progress, but listen, on the other side, the country of Africa has 1.4 billion people, young and ready to do business. So if we build together, I think if we grow Black wealth globally, instead of ignoring, we can own some stuff. So the reality is the opportunity is now. It's not tomorrow. And you can start small investing. So I break it down, my resource, my YouTube channel, my book, you can start with e-commerce, creative export, digital services. And there's always a return of investment. And then if you want to look at big investment, infrastructure, renewable energy, real estate, these are top sectors out there across the biggest market across the continent. And to be honest, like I said, no money. Even if you got no money, right? Well, we all need money, of course. I think knowledge is important. Mentor, connect people because you can play your part. So for me, I'm your quarterback. So much talent on both sides across the African community, African diaspora. Both sides are doing the work. Like I said, you got to pick side which side you fit in because my goal is to help people quarterback. So let me quarterback you this thing. Let me call some plays and move the ball down so we can essentially score some touchdown. But get the workbook on Amazon. Because when it comes to this conversation about African economic revolution, the focus is it's all about, I think, for me, first your mindset before you're trying to score that touchdown on the continent. So yeah, entering the African market, it's really about helping thriving all of us in thriving in a globalized world, supporting Black businesses locally, globally. It just takes spaces, conversation. It takes education. You know what I'm saying? Knowledge. Perception versus reality. So yeah, click below. I'll have information about workbook resources. I'm even offering free class that you can take on your own. Just get into that Africa one-on-one. It's very important. And then go from there. So yeah, stay composed, stay inspired for you being consciously exposed.